the heart of the Galactic Core Academy, a place where the brightest minds from dozens of planets gathered, the atmosphere was unusually tense. Rows of tentacled, scaled, and feathered students sat frozen, eyes wide, appendages twitching in confusion as they stared at the floating holo display at the front of the classroom. On it was a seemingly harmless assignment titled Basic Survival Strategy Homeworld Edition, submitted by none other than Alex Morgan, the Academy's first human exchange student from Earth, a planet universally categorized as a Class 12. Deathworld, infamous across the stars for its violent wildlife, unpredictable weather, toxic flora, and terrifying apex predators. Yet Alex had submitted this project with a casual grin and a half-eaten protein bar in hand, completely unaware of the chaos it would unleash. The assignment detailed how Earth children, as young as 5, are taught to recognize venomous creatures, start fires without tools, survive being lost in forests, and respond calmly to earthquakes, tornadoes, and bear encounters, treating it all as routine knowledge, while the rest of the class, beings from planets where rain was rare and predators extinct, struggled to comprehend the necessity of such brutal lessons, let alone the ease with which Alex described them. One particularly delicate Zentari fainted at the part about wrapping a venomous snake bite, while a robotic intelligence named Z1X began cross-referencing Earth's danger levels with known war zones, alarmed at the overlap. The professor, an 8-eyed crustacean named Churka, had originally intended this assignment as a light exercise in cultural exchange, but now sat in stunned silence, questioning the very criteria for Earth's admission to the Galactic Peace Accord. Meanwhile, Alex sipped his drink, oblivious to the crisis, wondering why everyone was being so dramatic about a simple bit of homework. As the stunned silence stretched into a full galactic minute, the classroom buzzed with hushed transmissions, telepathic, links, private comm channels, and emergency calls to parental units and homeworld educators. Fear rippled like an electromagnetic wave through the diverse student body, many of whom had never been exposed to the concept of danger as anything more than a theoretical construct in simulations. Yet here sat a being who had not only lived it but been trained in it from childhood. Alex, still munching on what the nutrition module had labeled Earth Jerky, looked up with a raised brow as Professor Churka cleared his throat, an unsettling wet gurgle that usually meant confusion or disbelief. "Mr. Morgan," he rasped, You mean to tell us this is normal for Earth juveniles?" And Alex, in his trademark casual shrug, replied, "Yeah, pretty standard. I left out the crocodile wrestling part, didn't want to brag." Which sent another wave of panic through the class, as several species tried to understand what a crocodile even was and why a child would need to wrestle one. The Vortari twins, whose bodies were composed entirely of gelatinous plasma, began to ripple uncontrollably, their cores pulsating with anxiety, while one of the feathered Auvik students softly chirped a traditional death hymn out of instinct. Only the Qatar Warborn, a race bred for conflict, seemed mildly impressed, though even they exchanged nervous glances at the mention of earthquakes and wildfires as weekend inconveniences. The situation escalated when the AI assistant, embedded in the wall, intended to monitor class well-being, flagged Alex's report as a potential security threat, triggering a red alert that locked the classroom for further analysis. The walls hummed as drones emerged to scan the subject, much to Alex's bewilderment, who calmly raised his hands and asked, "Am I being arrested for writing an essay?" To which the system replied in an ominous monotone, "Unclear. Threat. Potential recalibrating." Meanwhile, outside the sealed class, news of the assignment had begun spreading across the campus, drawing attention from xenobiologists, defense analysts, and cultural psychologists, all eager to see firsthand the report that was now being referred to as the Deathworld dossier. Back inside, Professor Churika attempted to regain control, waving his claws to calm the panicked room and gently suggesting they move on to the next presentation. But no one dared step forward, not after Alex's casual account of surviving a thunderstorm with nothing but a blanket and a flashlight. This to them was the equivalent of walking through plasma fire in bare feet. Finally, after much deliberation, a tentative truce was formed, Alex would be allowed to remain in class but would refrain from discussing traumatic Earth rituals unless under academic supervision. To this, Alex just laughed, not out of mockery but confusion, for he truly believed Earth life to be average, a notion that only deepened the galactic existential crisis now unfolding across multiple star systems as entire educational councils convened emergency meetings to reevaluate the inclusion of Deathworld species in peaceful academic environments. But perhaps the most profound shift happened silently within the minds of the students themselves, especially young Talar, a soft-skinned empath from the water moon Selvara, who after reading Alex's paper again, didn't feel fear but curiosity, a strange pull toward this chaotic, beautiful madness called Earth. And she wondered, not for the first time, if perhaps strength wasn't born from perfection and safety, but from surviving chaos with humor, courage, and a stubborn refusal to give up. The days following the now legendary assignment saw the Galactic Core Academy transformed into a vortex of curiosity, debate, and quiet dread as students, instructors, and interstellar officials wrestled with the implications of what Alex Morgan had so casually unleashed upon their understanding of reality. Communal lounges once filled with gentle discussion about quantum poetry and starlight harmonics now echoed with intense conversations about grit, resilience, and the concept of pain tolerance, all of which were previously considered primitive notions obsolete in enlightened societies. Yet here stood a representative of a so-called backward species who had not only endured these experiences but thrived because of them. Alex, now a reluctant celebrity, had his schedule interrupted daily by interview requests, psychological assessments, and hollow documentary crews, all seeking to understand how a species born from a swirling nightmare of tectonic fury and biological aggression could produce a teenager who smiled while describing scorpion stings and snakebite kits as just-in-case gear. And as word of Earth's reality spread beyond the Academy into the wider galactic network, public interest surged. Netcasts dubbed him the smiling Deathworlder, and memes began surfacing with animated versions of Alex fighting off imaginary creatures while sipping iced tea, all of which amused him greatly but only deepened the cultural rift now forming between Deathworld-born and Soft-World-raised civilizations. In the classrooms, debates grew heated as alien students began questioning whether their own pampered existences had left them vulnerable, unprepared for the kind of existential unpredictability Earthlings faced daily. And though most concluded that life on a Deathworld was unnecessary and extreme, a growing minority began admiring the raw adaptability Earth humans demonstrated, particularly after it was revealed that Alex had once walked 10 kilometers through snow because his bus got delayed by a moose, a sentence that caused 3 separate students to faint and 1 to question the sanity of Earth's transportation systems. Professor Churika, after consulting a council of senior educators, introduced a new elective titled Adaptive Survival in Hostile Environments, which immediately filled to capacity, with Alex awkwardly named as the Cultural Insight Liaison, a role he accepted only after being promised he wouldn't have to give any more speeches about bear repellent. Yet even as the Academy tried to normalize the presence of its first human, deeper questions were emerging. How many more like Alex existed? Were all Earthlings this durable? And most unsettling of all, if such beings ever decided to expand their presence across the stars, would they bring their chaos with them or quietly reshape the universe simply by being who they were? Meanwhile, within Alex himself, a subtle transformation was underway too. For while he had arrived at the Academy eager to learn and explore, he was now increasingly aware of how different his baseline assumptions were, how alone he sometimes felt in a sea of careful caution, and how much he missed the wild, messy beauty of Earth's forests, its sharp smells, its wild laughter, and the raw thrill of uncertainty that came with every sunrise. Talar, the Selvaran empath, sensed this quiet ache and began spending more time with him. Her calm, fluid presence a soothing contrast to his crackling, erratic energy. And slowly, a friendship bloomed, one rooted not just in fascination, but in a growing understanding that maybe the galaxy didn't need to become Earth, but it did need to understand it, to accept that strength came in many forms, and that sometimes The ones who laugh the loudest in the storm are not mad, but simply used to dancing with it. And so as part 3 of Alex's report was quietly uploaded to the Academy database, this time detailing something he called a camping trip gone wrong but kind of fun, a fresh wave of disbelief began to ripple across the stars, and once again the alien classroom prepared to be humbled by the Deathworlder's idea of simple.